I'm willing to talk to you about your error theory position because the multiple times you've called you out for debating me on moral error theory, and you just did not debate me on that topic. So we could just talk about your position on moral error theory, which is just a new conversation, not about he say, she say in the previous conversation, which is not about me. We could just have our own conversation about what we are both disagreeing on without me having to reference a previous conversation between you and someone else. So about moral error theory, do you still believe in that position or no?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, what's the evidence for moral error theory being the case?
Why I hold to the view.
You said what, sorry?
It's
Continue?
I asking why I hold to the view.
I'm asking you what's the evidence for the propositions. I'm asking if you have any epistemic reasons which would count in favor of the proposition, sure, given the relevant data existing.
Well, I explained it to the other kid earlier. I think it seems like there's good evidence that people express something propositional when they utter moral sentences. Maybe less confident if it's like an objectivist semantics. But if they do hold that view, and we agree that it's going to be inflating with no good reason to have such an inflation of like things like stance independent moral properties, unless you're going to allow for like this kind of like deflationary talk, I don't see any other alternative other than like something akin to like error theory.
So your argument is simply that the error theorist is not going to be the type of position which is ontologically inflated insofar as they're invoking more things in their ontology. That's your argument for error theory being the case?
Sorry, what was the? Can you see the question one more time?
Okay, sure. I was asking you if you believe it to be the case that because the error theorist is not going to be invoking like concepts such as stance independence or all of these things in their ontology, would it be the case that that satisfies evidence for the proposition of moral error theory? Is that the claim you're making, Trump?
I think so. If you like grant that the error theorist is correct on the metaphysics, and we're not like granting some kind of like minimalist talk, that that's gonna like suffice for something like error theory.
Okay, so think of like a proposition about like solipsism in comparison to a position about like metaphysical idealism or metaphysical realism. Do you believe that, given the reason you've given a while ago, solipsism would be more likely or more favored by the evidence in comparison to metaphysical realism or metaphysical idealism? Yes or no?
So that solipsism is gonna be more likely than like subjective idealism.
Yeah, think of a position which claims that only I exist, in comparison to a position which claims much more things exist, and like, oh, I exist, and also Venus exists, all of these people on Discord exist, universe exists. Think of those two contrasting
I think those are
hypotheses,
gonna
okay?
be
Yeah,
different kinds, of course.
given the reason it presented previously for moral error theory, do you think that would apply and work in favor of solipsism being the view which is favored by the evidence? Yes or no?
I think it's a different notion of parsimony there.
No, the same notion of parsimony. In both case scenarios, in the first proposition about solipsism, I'm not going to be inflating my ontology by talking about things such as the universe or any of that stuff. I'm just talking about me, myself, existing. So both of the
It
case
sounds like
scenarios is going to involve one more thing. Just
sounds
one more
like
thing. Just one more thing. One more thing, man. I was just going to say that in both case scenarios, I'm invoking the same reason you're given there insofar as in the solipsism hypothetical, the reason for believing in solipsism is going to be baked in the fact that it is not an ontologically inflated position, which is the same argument you're using for moral error theory. So I'm asking you, do you adopt that same reason with the same level of epistemic effectiveness, I should say?
no. I mean, in this case, sounds like it's some kind of like a quantitative parsimony that's being at play here. Whereas in the other case, I'm saying I don't think there are these types of things to begin with. Not that
But
there
that's
are
the
these
thing in
types of
dispute here.
things. I just want to minimize the kind of like numbers of these things that are out in the world.
So your position here is basically you are justified in saying these things do not exist because you want to minimize these things from your ontology, and the reason behind this, or the motivation behind you minimizing your ontology, is because you don't take it to be the case these things exist.
Well, I mean, in one case, it sounds like I'm not agreeing that there are these fundamental
That's just a circular
entities,
argument.
not the. Sorry.
Well, that's just a circular argument. The way how I painted the argument a while ago, which is the way how you articulated the argument would be circular, right? Because you're using the thing which we're disputing here to basically use it as a justification for
I
the
didn't
conclusion, right?
give.
So you're
I,
Mhm.
I didn't give an argument. I'm trying to explain to you the
Yes, you
different
did.
kinds of parsimonies.
You did give an argument. You agree to give an argument. I asked you if this was your
I
argument. You
gave.
said yes. What are you talking about?
No, you asked me what's the different kind of parsimonies, and I'm explaining to you the two
No,
different kinds of
I'm saying
parsimonies.
you give an argument for Larry theory. I'm saying you give an argument for Larry theory. So far as I ask you, was this your argument after you gave your reasons for believing in this position, and you said yes, so you gave an argument. Stop lying about this stuff, dog. It's not worth it.
I thought you asked me what the two different kinds of parsimonies are.
I'm not asking you for a differentiation in the two different accounts of parsimony because I was using the same type of parsimony in both case scenarios. In the case that you brought up and the hypothetical I brought up to reflect your case scenario. So they're not two different accounts.
I thought you asked me, wouldn't the same reasoning apply in the case of like the solipsist versus the subjective idealist?
Yeah,
And I
that's not
said
me
no.
asking for a semantical differentiation of the two types of parsimony because I'm saying they're the same type of parsimony.
But
So given
I
your own
went on to
epistemology, you have to
say
be committed to believe in
I
that.
went
What's up?
I went on to say I don't think it's the same kind of parsimony in play in those two cases. And then you asked me how so, and I went on to explain, and then you said, well, that's a circular argument. But I wasn't giving an
No,
argument.
I
I was
was not talking
explaining the
about. I was not talking about. You're not tracking. I'm not talking about the parsimony part. I wasn't asking you for any differentiation in the accounts of parsimony. I was basically using a
Hey,
reductio to test your consistency.
what are you asking now?
Mhm.
What is it that you're
What I've
asking
been
now?
asking, not what I've been asking now. What I've been asking was simply, how would it be the case that you are not a solipsist, right? And it is the case that you believe it to be the case that moral error theory is the case, considering that both positions would have the same sorts of epistemic motivation. That's basically what my question was, by the way, if I have to dumb
I'm
it down
not
for you.
I'm not sure what your question is.
You're still not sure about what my
Are
question is.
you are you curious of why that wouldn't carry over to like the solipsist case? Is that what you're asking? If you're asking about that question, it's not going
Definitely.
to carry over because it's a
Of
different
course.
kind of parsimony.
How is it a different kind of parsimony?
No, because in this case, you're just talking about like quantitative parsimony. The kind of like parsimony that I was talking about is I want to have as few types of fundamental entities in my ontology as possible.
When you're talking about few, that's a
Like, for
quantitative
example,
concept. That's
no,
retarded. And
no.
secondly,
Now
in
you,
the case of
now
parsimony, one more thing. Hold on, you're
I
interrupting.
can,
In the case of one
no,
more
I'm
thing, in
trying
the
to
case
like
that I brought up,
I'm trying
no,
to
you gave a
explain my
point, you
view.
stopped talking, and I responded by saying it's a quantitative concept.
I,
Let me finish my
I tell you,
point, then you can respond afterwards.
I tell you, if you actually are curious about my view, let me know, and then I can explain
I'm
my
still
view.
curious, but I'm
If
responding to
you,
what you said before you
yeah, but
clarify
like,
anything else.
yeah, if you're curious, then you're gonna let me finish what my view is without like interrupting me. So are you curious about my view, or do you just want to talk? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, we can hear you.
So
Paul is just
I think
not here at the
I think
moment.
I think I disconnect. I don't know. There's something weird going on with the VC. I keep like disconnecting.
No, yeah, that's for most. But yeah, right now it's just a call at the moment that's lagging.
Is it like a ping thing with the server or what?
No clue. I think Discord's just been like most of their servers have been experiencing some weird like disruptions.
Yeah, this happens on Discord sometimes. These shitty like VC connections.
Yeah.
I never experienced this in a VC before, but like
Yeah, so I don't know why I keep on cutting out. So which part did I leave off at?
I don't remember. I was just asking if you're curious about my view, I can outline my view.
Yeah, I told you I'm curious about
But
your
then
view, but I've
don't.
already
But
responded to a
then
claim you've made, and you don't want me to continue responding to your claim. Right.
I
What I
mean,
was
if
saying,
you're
by the way,
curious
before I
about
cut
my
off,
view, I could tell
I
you my
was asking
view,
you
but like
questions. What are you doing? Do you not want me to
I'm
address your claims?
well, we haven't like been clear what my view is yet. So I was just trying to ask, do you want to know my view or do you want to like monologue?
Of course, I've been clear. You said specifically that's your view regarding your justification for error theories based off the fact that you want to posit as few entities as possible. That's your view. That's one of your positions. So we're clear on the
No,
primary position here.
no. It's not as few entities as possible.
It's few entities given what you're
fundamental-
committed to in your belief
few-
system.
no. It's as few
Yep.
fundamental entities as possible.
Few fundamental entities as possible. You
can-
think that's different from what I
like-
just said a while ago?
Yeah, I can give you an example.
What's your
example,
counter
if you're-
fundamentality, by the way?
If you're, I don't think that's relevant.
Of course it's relevant. You're claiming there to be a relevant distinction between me saying as few entities as possible, given what you're committed to in your belief system,
No,
and you saying
it's not.
few fundamental entities as possible. So I'm asking you, what's your
It's-
counter fundamentality to make it the
it's
case
not-
these two claims are
It's
distinct?
not. It's not relevant that I give a full account for you to understand my view. What the point that I'm making is, if we take something like, can you guys hear me by the way, or did I disconnect again?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what's going on.
If-
The
if
Discord
we're-
bit.
What I'm saying is like an ontology that doesn't even have posited Rashashing as, irreducible normative entities in the world is going to be favorable to an ontology that has such entities in their ontology. But between two
Are they
ontologies that
epistemically
allow,
favorable?
but two, I mean, if you cut me off again, I'm just going to take it that you're not like interested.
I'm asking you if you're taking it to be the case they're epistemically favorable. I'm asking you a clarifying question.
Is there other notions of parsimony that's not going to be epistemic?
How would it be I think there are accounts of parsimony which is not necessarily epistemic favorability, or it's just not necessarily
I thought-
epistemically
I
favorable.
mean, we're talking in terms of epistemology. We're talking about theory.
Yeah, but I'm
theory
asking you if it is the case that
I don't
what
know
you're
what
given
kind-
here is going to be conducive to your epistemology. So I'm asking you if you believe it to be epistemically favorable. Sorry.
it just seems like to me, you're just trying to grab at like anything you can make a debate over at this point, and you're not actually interested in my view.
Is this how you run away from actual disputes in the conversation to not prove your claims, by the way?
No, I mean, like, I thought you're just
Okay, so then
curious
stay
about
on
my view.
topic. So I'm asking you, are you taking it to be the case that those types of
mean-
positions are epistemically favorable?
There's not going to be any other kind of favorability.
Why would it be epistemically favorable for there to be a position without irreducible norms in comparison to a position
Because
with
we're-
irreducible norms?
Because we're talking about theory comparison. Theory comparison is going to be epistemic. When you say
Theory
this
comparison?
is, but
Just because the motivation behind theory comparison is epistemic does not mean the reasons you give for believing in one theory over another in the theory comparison talk is necessarily epistemically favorable. So I'm asking you, why is it the case? I'm asking you, why is it the case that your reason is epistemically favorable?
when we're doing theory comparison, and I'm talking about parsimony, and I'm saying this view is going to be more favorable because it's parsimonious. It's hard for me to see what
Parsimonious
the
under
notion
one
of
framework.
parsimony.
Under
I was
your
trying to
kind of
explain.
parsimony.
I was trying to explain the notion of fundamentality to you, but it doesn't
No, you
seem
weren't.
like
You said
you're
that was
very
not relevant.
interested.
You said that was
No,
not
what I
relevant. You
said
said
is
that's not relevant.
no. What I said is giving
Yes,
an
I asked you
account
what's your kind of
of
fundamentality. You said
and I
that's not relevant, and you're trying to pick at everything in the conversation.
No,
Yes, that's what happened. What are you talking about?
giving.
And
What
not a
I
lie about
said
the
was
given points in the
giving
conversation.
what I said is giving an analysis of fundamentality is not going to be that relevant to get understanding my view. What I said, and then I went on to give an example, but you like cut me off in the middle of an example. So I'm just going to do this, right? I'm going to explain my view once again. If you like cut me off, I'm just going to take that to be a sign that you're not interested in hearing what my view is. And then you're like free to
You've said the
monologue
same
after
thing 3
that
times, by the
yourself.
way.
Yeah, so what I was saying, was under like one ontology that doesn't posit fundamental entities like irreducible normative entities like moral values is going to be preferable in terms of parsimony, an epistemic notion, over an ontology that does posit such things. All else held equal. We were just considering the parsimony of this one thing. But between two
Why?
ontologies, that's just what it means to be more parsimonious. That in this case, it's having
No,
as
that's not.
few.
No, that's not
but-
true.
Well, I'm explaining to you what
That's
I
not
mean by it.
necessarily true. Okay. So if you're going under
So-
ontological parsimony, we're just talking about the amount
So-
of candidates that's being postulated, right?
I mean,
it is not the case that necessarily.
I said if you cut me off again, I'm just going to take it that you're not.
I mean, if you want to run away from your claims again, that's
So-
fine, right? But you're going to make contentious claims and not allow me to
But
address
it's
the
not.
claims.
It's not like running away. It's not like you're going to provide some kind of like an interesting critique or something. You're just going to be monologuing.
Says the
you're gonna
guy
be,
that
like,
presented
debate
any interesting
throwing,
arguments for his
You're
position.
going to be like debate broing, and you're going to be wasting everybody else's time.
When you say someone is debate bro, do you just mean they're smacking in the point, they cannot prove in the conversation?
No, but
So
like
then,
cutting
yeah,
me off
definitely.
in the middle, cutting me off in the middle of after
You've
asking
cut
my
me off
question.
numerous times.
I didn't cut you off when I asked you to explain your view. I cut you off when I think you're like either confused about something or you're not addressing my question. I didn't ask you a question. What do you hold about X? And in the middle of you explaining what your views are, I cut you off. Now I'm going to explain it like last time. If you cut me off, I'm just going to take that to be you not being interested in like a genuine conversation. I think that's like a fair thing on my part. So what I said was, between two views, if one allows for a fundamental entity and the other doesn't, the latter is going to be more favorable with respect to parsimony. But between two
Why?
views, if they both have this kind of like fundamental entities, if one view posits 100, moral entities and the other posits 200, that's not the kind of like parsimony that I find to be very interesting.
Yeah, so this is not true for a couple of reasons. So you can have a view,
Now-
for example, and first and foremost, I need to clarify what you mean by entities before we even get onto that. So after I give the response, you can clarify your usage of the term entities in this conversation. Secondly, you can have a view,
You,
for
you want
example,
me to clarify
where it's-
what I mean by
you can-
entities?
yeah, of course, and I'm done talking. Of course, and I'm done responding to the other points. Then yeah, definitely, which I've just said a while ago.
You don't-
So about the other
You think
stuff you're
there's
talking
like
about, okay? You're interrupting
you
now.
think there's
What's
like
going on?
a
What's wrong, Venus?
substantive
What's wrong,
dispute
Mr. Venus?
what
You're
like
interrupting.
entities are gonna be?
But you're interrupted. What's going on, Venus? You're crying about this stuff a while ago, so that's kind of hypocritical. Do you not believe
No,
so?
but I was never crying about this.
Of course, you were complaining about this stuff numerous times.
At,
So
thi-
yeah, I think you're
at
crying
this
about
point, it just sounds like you're asking me to explain any word that I use.
it. Any word? I've only asked you to define like 3 to 4 words in this conversation. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you asked what an entity is.
I think everyone here heard me ask that question, so you kind of just stated the obvious. What's your point?
Well, my point is like entities, things, objects are not like typically things that are going to be theory laden and debated of. And it's not going to be essential to this discussion. So it just
How is
sounds
it
like
not
you're just trying
essential?
to, it just
How is
sounds
it
like
not
you're trying to
essential
ask,
to ask you to define a word that's just crucial to your point, considering that there's ambiguity surrounding your word of the conversation?
you
How is
think,
that not something which is interesting? Mhm.
you think it's crucial to my point what objects are or like what entities are. And
You don't think it is the
it-
case your position is based off entities whatsoever or any analysis of objects in this debate? You don't think so?
no, I don't think so.
Oh, really? So how is it the case that you're using parsimony? How can you invoke parsimony without talking about objects? Under your view.
Well, I mean, parsimony here is going to be, we want to like minimize
Can you
the
invoke
quantity.
parsimony in this debate without invoking objects as a concept? Yes or no?
No, I mean you can invoke an object without having like a full analysis of what that object
That's not
is
what I
going to be.
just
Is going to be
asked.
relevant.
That's not my question. I'm asking you, can you invoke parsimony to justify your position without talking about entities which is baked into the concept of your concept parsimony? Yes or
Yeah,
no?
just that's what I asked. That's what I answered about.
No, you
It's
said the
analogous
opposite.
to
You're asking me if you can
it's
invoke objects in the conversation, not if you can invoke parsimony without objects, which is different.
no. Now you're just confused. Listen, I'm saying
I'm confused as to why you're still
parsim,
confused in the
par,
debate. I agree with you, definitely.
parsimony is going to be about
Take your
minimizing
time.
parsimony is going to be about minimizing the number of something, whether it's going to be like object or primitive terms or other things. One kind,
Okay, so now changing the position. Gotcha.
ontological parsimony is going to be about entities or objects. But having a
And you're invoking
discussion
ontological
about
parsimony, correct?
having a conversation about ontological parsimony, it's not going to be relevant if you have like a full analysis of what an object is. Anymore, if we're having a dispute about, let's say, what justification is, for you to ask, well, what's your analysis of what a belief is? That's not going to be relevant. You can like have debates between externalists,
Do you think
internalists,
ontological parsimony
justification.
is a sufficient condition for something to be favored by the evidence?
I
All
don't
else being
think,
equal?
I don't think an analysis of what an entity is like that interesting or relevant when we're trying to dispute whether
It's
or not
relevant to
two
ontological parsimony.
theories, of which two theories are most parsimonious.
In the case of what we're talking about, it would be because you're invoking
any
ontological
more than
parsimony.
like an analysis of beliefs is relevant to like a dispute about externalism or internalism about justification.
The difference there is simply that when you're talking about parsimony, you're invoking ontological parsimony, and you agree that there are kinds of parsimony which is not confined to just objects' existence. So I'm asking you that question because of that relevancy there or that divergence. Secondly, as it relates to your original point, I'm just merely asking you, do you believe that ontological parsimony is a sufficient condition for a given proposition to be favored by the evidence, all else being equal? Yes or no?
You're asking if two theories are equal with all respects, only one is more ontologically parsimonious than the other, if that's going to be a reason to favor one over the other?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case specifically, why would you believe this?
Why I would believe one theory being more virtuous than the other theory, and all other virtues being equal, why one theory would be better?
I don't
It's
grant it
gonna
to
be
be the
an-
case that
just
ontological
gonna be.
parsimony is an epistemic virtue.
I mean, like we can dispute that part, but like I'm saying I hold that to be a theoretical virtue, and
Okay, so why is the theoretical virtue?
why I hold like ontological parsimony to be a theoretical virtue.
Yep.
Well, that's going to be, well, there's going to be the kind of, it's not necessarily going to be like a probability kind of a thing. It's more going to be.
So it's
that
not
I
evidence.
think- No, it can be evidence without it being probability raising.
How is it evidence? How is it evidence if it is the case if it's not probability raising?
No, because I don't take it that evidence is definitionally probability raising.
It doesn't have to be definitionally probability raising for it to be the case that evidence is necessarily probability raising. So this is a non-point. So how is it the case that it is evidence if it is not probability raising? Answer my question.
Oh, are you asking why is it evidence? Well, I mean, I would have to like go into like my view on evidence, my view on like theoretical virtues, how I
Then
think
do that.
what virtues we should pick. But that would be like a different discussion than the one we're having.
It's not a different discussion. It's going to be a fundamental point to this discussion because you're claiming this thing to be evidence. What are you talking about?
No, it is going to be a different discussion.
Now you're making another
Just
pathetic
like-
excuse to run away from your
just
own
like-
claims because you can't justify your position.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind talking epistemology.
Okay, then
I'm just saying
talk
it's going
about
to be
it.
a different. I'm just saying that's going to be a different topic. It's like
Okay, so why would it be evidence? Explain that part.
yeah, but that would be a different topic. I'm just saying. Do you want to talk about
Why
like,
would it be evidence? I'm going to keep on asking the same question. Why is ontological parsimony evidence for moral error theory? Why would it be evidence?
Yeah, but you can keep repeating the question. I'm just saying it's going to be a
And if you
different
keep on
discussion.
dodging, it's going to make it look optically
But I'm
unpure.
not. But I'm not dodging. I'm just saying if you want
Yes,
to
you are,
discuss
because you're not
epistemology,
explicating as to how it is not. You're not explicating as to how it is evidence. What are you talking about? That's you dodging the question about your evidential merits of your position.
no. Look, what I said was you asked me initially, why do I think
Could you just
better
answer my
theory
question and stop
is
running
a
away?
better? But I'm not running away. I'm saying we can have an epistemological discussion.
Okay, then let's have that conversation right now. How is it evidence for the problem?
But I just want like a concession that you want to change the subject first.
A
Before we
concession?
go
You
into
think
that.
each time someone makes a different claim or asks you a different question, they're changing the subject?
Yeah, because I thought you wanted to discuss.
So when you
better
ask me
theory.
questions
If
about
you-
my
if you
position,
agree-
you're changing the subject?
Yeah, I think if I
You-
start asking you meta questions, I'm going to be changing the subject. Yeah.
Meta questions.
It's
Hold on. So
if
when
I
you
ask
ask me
some-
clarifying
it's akin
questions,
if
which
I
would be
ask
meta
someone,
questions,
right? Why
asking
do they
clarifying
believe in
questions
God?
would be meta questions. What are you talking about?
Hold on, it's akin to me asking somebody why they believe in God, and they give me like a deductive argument, and I start asking them why they accept like deduction, or like what justification.
Look,
they
I'm
have
just
for, like,
waiting
logic.
for you to actually. I'm just waiting for you to actually address my question. How would it be evidence?
Yeah, but I'm addressing a different thing. I'm addressing the notion that this
You
is
made
a
a
topic
claim that
change.
your position is ontologically parsimonious than the moral realist
Mhm.
position, right? I'm
Mhm.
asking you, why would that be evidence?
Yeah, and I'm saying that's a topic change.
How is it a topic change to ask someone to justify their position? What are you
Because-
talking about?
Because one is discussing what reasons you have to be an error theorist, in which I gave you an abductive style argument. And the other one
Wait,
is
you think it is the
what-
case? Wait, do you think it is the case that each time you ask someone for evidence of a proposition in a debate, that's them changing the subject? Even though
Yeah, I think
debates
if they
are literally
start,
about evidential presentation.
I think if you ask somebody for evidence why they believe a proposition, the topic of the discussion is going to be that proposition. So if you ask me, why do you believe in God? And I give you a deductive argument, and you say, why do you think deductive arguments are evidence? And you want to have an account of like deduction, why I believe in deduction, why I accept modus ponens. I take that to be a topic change, yeah.
No, because the debate by definition is arguing for a given position. So if my question is about how you argue for your position, that's still in alignment with the topic. That's not would be a topic change at the fundamental level. What are you talking about?
So a discussion about whether God exists and a discussion about whether or not
We're
there's
not
any reason
talking
to
about
believe
that
modus
hypothetically.
ponens.
We're talking about this
It
case
is,
scenario. You made the claim that
it
your
is an,
position is ontologically parsimonious. You think that's evidence. Why is that evidence?
it is an analogy. What I said is a discussion about
So you won't prove
theism
the claim that
and
it
a
is evidence
discussion.
for the proposition. You just want to
No, I'm
pontificate
saying,
about meta ramble,
no, I'm
nonsense,
saying we
bullshit,
can talk. No, I'm saying we can talk about epistemology. It's just going to be a
and
different
give
topic.
the justification for ontological parsimony would be evidence.
Yeah, but I'm saying we can change the
Because you can
topic
see that it
once
is
you
not
agree.
probability. You can see that it is not probability raising. So you've already fucked yourself
It's
up.
not.
So I'm just asking
It's
you, what's up?
yeah. It's not necessarily going to be probability raising. But I don't think all
Wait,
theoretical
hold on a
virtues are
second.
reducible. I don't think
It doesn't
theoretical
even have to.
virtues
It
are.
doesn't even have to necessarily be probability raising for it to be the case that it would not be evidence if it is not probability. So
Yeah, but
that's
that's what I
retarded.
just said. No, but
You saying that it
what?
is not necessarily probability raising does not
Mhm.
automatically indicate that something not being probability raising would be evidence
No, now
against the
you're confused.
proposition.
No, now you're confused. What I'm saying is, if
You
it's
don't
not
even know what point you're
necessarily the
even on right now,
case,
don't you?
well, I was trying to answer you before you cut me off. I'm saying if it's not necessarily probability raising, there might be instances where you could remove fundamental entities from an ontology, and that would be
All I'm saying
favorable
here,
evidence for that would be favorable evidence for that ontology.
all I'm
But there's
saying
no
here
way to
is simply
show
someone can agree, you're
even
rambling.
if that ontology is
Simply,
equal
yeah.
probable.
You're going off point, by the way. I'm saying someone can
So
agree
could
that it
you
is the case
could
that
you
evidence is not necessarily
hold,
probability
hold on? I
raising
just made a
and still
point.
believe
Could
it
you
to be the
like
case. And still believe it to
wait?
be the
What was
case
the
that my claim
last?
is correct.
What was the last
Hmm.
point that I made? Could you repeat the claim that I just made?
The claim you just made while I was talking over because you're rambling? No.
Yeah. So what was I rambling about? Could you repeat? What was I rambling about?
It's rambling. If it's ramble, it's
Yeah.
nonsense. Usually nonsense is
Let's.
unintelligible.
So it is.
What you were
So
talking
it is.
about, what you were talking about, what you were talking about was
So to
evidence
be clear,
not necessarily being probability raising. I was addressing that claim by particularly pointing
so
out that
so
granting
what
that
I said,
evidence is
just
not
to be clear, what I
necessarily
was saying
probability
was
raising
nonsense.
does not automatically indicate that it would be the case that if something is not probability raising, it is the case that it would be evidence under some given framework.
Okay, so you
You can
just
still
said
have
what
it
I
to be the
said
case.
was.
The only type of evidence is probability raising.
Okay, so what you said, what I said was nonsense.
Yeah, I'm talking about the rambling session you gave after not justifying the previous proposition.
That's nonsense. Hello?
No, you cut out.
Because it is not probability raising. Are you lost in the conversation?
No, I think you disconnected.
Okay, do you want me to repeat my point since you got disconnected?
Well, no, I want you to explain how it's nonsense to say that there are going to be
Yeah, that was my
instances
point.
where you can eliminate fundamental entities, but
That's not what I was talking
and
about.
that's
I'm
but
talking
that's what I
about
was
the claim
saying.
you
That's what
made.
I was.
You made
That's
the
what I was
claim.
saying when you claimed I
You
was
made the
rambling.
claim. Venus, stop panicking. Just calm down. You made the claim that evidence is the type of thing which is not necessarily probability raising in response to my claim when I said it would not be evidence because it is not probability raising. That reason you've given or
Okay.
that response is compatible with my claim. You can believe that evidence is not necessarily probability raising and still believe that if something is not probability raising, it is not evidence, in the sense where the only type of evidence is going to be something which is probability raising, even if that's not necessarily true.
I'm not sure who you're like disputing with at this point.
I'm disputing with your point in response to you making the claim it would be evidence despite it not being probability raising.
Yeah, but I agree that
Why are you
just
so
because
confused,
evidence
bro?
is not. Oh, because I'm not sure what we like disputing at this point.
You made the claim, right, that it is the case
Like
that
when I
evidence is
try to
not
like
necessarily
elucidate, you call
probability
it like
raising. I'm
ramble or
trying to
nonsense.
clarify the point
You
I'm
go on like
disputing.
monologues.
Do you want to be educated on the point that is being disputed currently, or do you want to keep on talking over me? What I'm saying
I mean,
here is
I
okay. So you're
like
just gonna be this
clarification why.
eager kid, man. Okay, got you.
I want
Go for it.
clarification
Finish up,
why
man.
you're saying. I just want to be clarification why you're saying things are like nonsense and ramble when
I
they're
just
like
told
clearly
you why.
cognitive.
Because it's not relevant to the points I made. It's not epistemically
Because
relevant.
could you repeat what I said and explain how it's not relevant?
I just told you what you said on numerous different occasions. I just
But you
told you.
just said you didn't hear what I
I
said
said that you
because you were
said
corporate
evidence is
talking.
not necessary. I just quoted your
I'm
point.
not talking. I'm
You
not
said
talking at
evidence is
that
not
point.
necessarily
No.
probability raising.
Now you're
What are you
confused. Now you're
talking about?
confused. Now you're
Is
confused. I'm
this
not
how you
talking
cope with
about.
you not having an actual
I'm not
objection to my
talking
point in the
about.
conversation?
I'm not talking about the instance what I said. It's not in the notion of evidence that it's probability raising, and that something can be evidence without being probability raising. What I'm saying is, I was trying to give you an example, and you called it like ramble. And what I'm curious about is if you can explain why that was like rambling, because apparently rambling for you is like non-cognitive. It's like nonsense.
So you're not going to address my point.
Well, I can address your point once you address my point.
Okay, so I'm going to clarify my point is one more time for you to understand, okay? Because I know you have really severe difficulties understanding these types of points. All I'm telling you here is simply that as it relates to what we're talking about insofar as evidence is concerned, right? If you're going to respond to my point by saying evidence is not necessarily probability raising, not only does that not automatically qualify your position to be evidence for the claim that you're making previously, but it also is the case that it does not automatically disqualify my assessment of what evidence actually would indicate. That's all I'm saying here. It's not that difficult, bro.
Hello? Hello?
I'm here. What's
Was I
up?
disconnected? What are you saying?
I'm saying that the claim you made when you said in response to what I said that it is not evidence, that evidence is not necessarily probability raising, that's equally compatible with that position. You could say that evidence is not necessarily probability
Which
raising.
position?
However, the position that it would not be the case that your position is evidence if it is not probability raising. They're equally compatible.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
Okay,
yeah.
so how is it the case that would be epistemically
If,
relevant to my objection to your point, if you agree that they are equally compatible?
wait, which objection are you talking about now? I thought you were
The
asking
one
me
I
a
just mentioned a
question.
while ago, which you just said yeah towards. What are you talking about, dude?
Wait, but an objection to what point? What I said was, I mean, let's just repeat the conversation because I'm like unsure what you're talking about now. Wait, you asked me the question. You said, why is it the case that ontological parsimony would be justification or something? And I
Would
said,
be evidence.
well, are you
Mm-hmm.
asking? Okay, I think you've brought in evidence later. And I said, are you just asking me why I take it to be a theoretical virtue? Because if we grant that it is a theoretical virtue, what you were asking me would just be analytic, that all else held equal, if one is more parsimonious than the other, it would be virtuous. And that would just mean that it's epistemically better. And then you said, why take it to be an epistemic virtue? To which I said, well, that's going to be a topic change. And I went on to add, I don't think that it's necessarily probability raising. And it sounded like what you, and then you said, well, how would it be evidence then? And I said, well, I don't think it's in the notion of evidence that it is probability raising. To which it sounds like you're saying that, well, that's not going to be relevant because it might be the case that not all instances of evidence is going to be probability raising. But in this case, if it's not probability raising, it might still not be evidence. Just
So
because
you
evidence isn't
changed the
probability.
events of the debate right now? Because what really happened
Yeah.
was I asked you specifically, when you mentioned ontological parsimony, I asked you, why would that be the type of thing which is a theoretical virtue evidence for the proposition? Then you said you don't take it to be the case of this evidence in the sense where it is probability raising. And I responded by
Well, I
saying,
don't
okay,
think.
so it is not,
I,
hold
I,
on, hold on, hold on,
I
hold
never
on, hold on.
said.
And then
I
I
never said
respond, hold on, and
sense.
then I responded by saying, okay, so I don't take, I said, it would be the case, it would not be evidence. Then you responded to that point by saying, evidence is not necessarily probability raising. And then you said that it's true because it is not baked into the definition of evidence that it is probability raising. And then I responded by saying, that point you're making there is equally compatible with the position that your reason for believing in moral error theory, which is predicated upon ontological parsimony, is not evidence. So that would mean that you making that point would not even be effectively addressing my objection towards the epistemic merits of your position, evidentially speaking.
But what did I change about the narrative?
What he changed was specifically you saying that it is the case that what happened originally was that you said evidence is not necessarily probability raising. That came afterward. Not to mention the other part of what he changed when specifically I asked you why is it the case it is evidence, to which you said that it is the case you don't take it to be evidence insofar as it is probability raising. That's different from what he said previously a while ago in your collection.
I'm still unclear what you think got changed. Let's just agree on.
You changed what's happened as it pertains to what I claimed when I said that you
Look,
were
we're
saying
probably just not
evidence is
gonna.
not necessarily probability raising.
Look, we're probably just not gonna go nowhere if we talk about like the chronology. But let's just focus on what do you think we're disputing at this point. What I think we're disputing
cool.
is what I'm saying is there is a topic change. I don't mind having the other topic. Talking about like the other topic about like epistemology, meta justification, and such things.
Real quickly, do you think it is the case
but-
that something which is probability raising is evidence for a proposition? Even if you don't think it's the only type of evidence, do you think it is evidence?
It depends on how to construe evidence. Like on some notion, if you just on some notion, if you well, I mean, there's like examples. For example, if you want to say aliens invaded your house, and somebody says, and your mom says somebody was in the house, or like she heard like a sound or something. Or like just think about something like, are you familiar with like the Raven's paradox?
Yes.
Yeah. So think about something like all ravens are black. The yellow cup on your table. Would you say that's evidence for all ravens are black? Some people might just want to say, well, that is evidence, but we're just going to think of that as like very, 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 very weak evidence, like negligible evidence. Others would want to say, no, I wouldn't consider it to be evidence. And so they might have a more like heavy notion of evidence. And I just don't really care about like either way. Like you can think of it as like weak evidence or like as
I don't grant
non-evidence.
in the case scenario for
But in
Raven
both
paradox
cases,
that it would be the case that the yellow cup on the table would be evidence in any way insofar as it would be probability raising for all ravens being black. Can you hear me now? Yo. Got disconnected again. Yeah, Venus, what I was saying, since you got disconnected, what I was saying?
Yeah, what
Yeah,
are you
I
saying?
know. I was saying that I don't grant it to be the case that in the analogy of the Ravens paradox, it would be true that the case of the yellow cup being on the table would be evidence insofar as it even raises the probability in any way whatsoever for all ravens being black. I don't grant that to be the case.
Yeah, what do you think the Raven's paradox is?
Ravens paradox basically demonstrates, right? You start off with a proposition, all ravens being black, and you pick out a proposition which is seemingly not relevant to demonstrate that proposition, which under some frameworks would raise the probability of all ravens being black.
No. Just
Right.
can you explain the logic of it? Like why Why would the all ravens are black? What is that like equivalent to? Just explain to me the
Logical equivalence you're
logic.
talking about?
Yeah, just explain the logic of the Ravens paradox.
I just did.
No, like saying things like all framework or like one that's just explain like the logical connect like the logical notion to me. Why is it something like a yellow cup supposed to be evidence? Or like typically that's given as an example.
What the person who's using the Ravens paradox is going to want to say is that it would be evidence because it raises the probability of all ravens being black.
Yeah, why does it raise the probability? Why does that person
I
say
don't
it
grant
raises
it to be the case that it raises the probability. That's the point. I don't
Yeah, but
grant that
why
to be-
does I understand you want to dispute that, but why is it that the typical person thinks that it does? Can you just explain the logic to me?
I just told you I don't grant it to be the case that it is probability raising. So
I
you're just asking me
understand.
to prove a point or estimate on a point,
No,
which I don't
I
even believe
understand.
in.
I understand Apollo doesn't think it's probability raising. I'm saying why typically people in the literature think it is just
Because
the
they'll
logical
believe that the
explanation of it.
conditional probability, they'll believe the conditional probability of all ravens being black, given the fact that there's a yellow cup on the table, is going to be higher than the negation of that universal quantifier claim. That's the reason. Now, I don't take that to be true.
Wait, I
Now,
don't,
do you have
I
an
don't
actual
understand what
objection to my point?
that wasn't like clear to me because you wanted to like
You
conditional
asked me why is
probability.
it the case that they believe that it is probability raised, and I just told you why.
Yeah, I didn't understand the point about like conditioning probability. What? Just like the typical way it's presented. How is it typically presented? Just explain that to me. All ravens are black.
Dude, you're asking me to explain something I've repeatedly explained on numerous different occasions.
Yeah, just one more time. All ravens are black. And then you have a yellow cup.
There's a
on the
yellow
table.
cup on the table, yes.
Yeah.
The
What's
reason
the
as to why
logical
they
relation
believe that to be
between?
probability raising is because they believe the conditional probability of a yellow cup being on the table, right? Sorry, the conditional probability of all ravens being black, given the fact that there's a yellow cup on the table, is going to be higher than the conditional probability of the negation of all ravens being black. I just told you, dude. Now
No,
let's
but
get off the meta. Let's get off the
that's not
meta and just address my
that's
point.
that's not explaining
Uh,
the paradox. At
I
this point, I don't
explained
think
the
you
paradox
understand
previously, and then he asked
what's
me to
the
explain why they believe it is probability raising, which is a different point.
what's
So I did
what's
explain the paradox
the
previously.
well, let's
Mm-hmm.
just go through the paradox because I don't think you understand it. Like all ravens are black. What is that equivalent to?
I asked if we're talking about logical equivalence or something else.
Yeah, logical equivalence. All ravens are black.
Earlier,
What
we're
is
going to be
that
talking
logical
about
equivalent?
logical equivalence in the tautological sense. It's going to be identical to itself. If you're going to talk about the logical entailments of the proposition, that's different.
I said equivalence like 2 times. Just all ravens
Yeah,
are
I'm
black.
saying
What
that
is that
logical
equivalent to?
equivalence would just translate to self-evident tautologies, at least in this context. So
Yeah. So what's
you have to
the?
be talking about something else.
No, I'm not. Just all ravens are black. What's that equivalent to?
It's equivalent to all ravens are black. That's what logical equivalence is in logic. It's a tautology. That can be the question you're asking because then your question becomes redundant and trivial. Do you have another question you want to ask? I'm saying given that account of logical equivalence that you mentioned,
Sorry,
I think I bugged out by the way, given that account, it
Sorry, I
would be the
disconnect.
case that it would be a trivial redundant question to even ask.
Just think about all ravens are black. If we apply a contraposition to that, what are we going to get?
You're bugging out from my end.
So can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, all ravens are black. We apply contraposition to that. What do we get?
So the question now is different. You're talking about contraposition.
Aren't contraposition equivalencies?
Excuse me?
Aren't all contrapositions equivalencies?
But you're literally agreeing that it is the case that I was basically referencing a tautology.
Just give me the contraposition of all ravens are black.
How is this even relevant to what we're talking about, dog?
I don't think you understand the paradox, and I'm trying to like walk you through it slowly.
I explained the paradox and Dog walked you through the paradox 2 different times. Then I
Just-
explained what they would be, what they would be referring to, what they're saying, that something is probability reason. And then you went back to us explaining the paradox, which you've already granted sufficiently explained previously.
You didn't by
So now
saying
I'm
just the
asking what's the
conditional
relevance of this
by just
point,
saying that
because it
by just-
seems as if you're going into an infinite regress of circular argumentation on the meta point, right?
no, I'm just trying to figure out if you understand the paradox. And now I'm leaning towards
I'm
you
trying to
actually
figure out
don't.
if you're dishonestly
But-
derailing because you don't have evidence for the reason as to why ontological parsimony needs evidence, which is why I'm questioning the
gonna-
relevance of your question.
We're gonna get to that point. I'm just kind of like baffled.
I don't
that
know
you
if we're going to get
know
to
what
that point at
Raven's
this point
paradox is.
because you've been on the same meta point for 5 to 10 minutes without even explicating as to how ontological parsimony would be evidence.
Oh, because it's just going to be trivial that it's probability raising. But the fact that you disputed
You said
that
it was not probability
makes me
raising.
think.
You said ontological parsimony is
No, I'm
not probability
I'm
raising.
talking about the Raven. Try to track. I'm talking
How
about
would
the
it be
Raven
trivially true that it is probability raising?
because I'm trying to walk you through that now.
No, how would it be
And-
trivially true? Explain that part.
And
What's the
you're
justification?
running from answering like a simple question.
I'm
Just
running. You're
all
literally
Ra-
not proving your claims
all-
right now. You haven't proved
all-
the claim that ontological parsimony is evidence. And now you're
all-
not proving the claim that it is trivially true, this probability raising. You're the only person
I'm not-
sprinting. You keep on asking me dumb,
Look,
fucking irrelevant
I'm not
questions.
trying. I'm
to
not
the
trying
point.
to be mean or anything. This was
I
supposed
don't
to be
care
like a
about whether
simple
you're trying to be mean
example.
or not. I'm asking
this
you,
point,
why
I
would
don't-
it be evidence?
At this point, I don't think you understand. Look, this is my
Why
position.
would it be
I
the
don't think
case that it
Apollo
is trivially
understands the
true that
Raven
it is
paradox.
probability raising? Why?
Now, just prove me wrong that you actually understand the
Why
paradox.
would it be trivially
All ravens are black. What's the contraposition of that?
Yes, and there's a yellow cup on the table. Why would it be trivially true that it would be probability raising for the proposition? Why?
Look, I'm asking you a simple question. Dodging.
Dog,
It's just
your
gonna give
simple
me-
question, by the way, you're
Dodging
talking about.
is just gonna give me reason
not
to
only is it
think
not
you don't
relevant,
understand
not only is it not
Raven's
relevant to the
paradox.
core fundamentals of disagreements here, but it's not even evidentially demonstrating as to how it would be the case of this probability raising in the case of the Ravens paradox. I'm asking you, how would it be probability raising for there to be a yellow cup on the table, insofar as it would
Look,
demonstrate the proposition that there
all
would
you
be
need to do,
all ravens which are black? Why would it be probability raising, Venus? Why?
all you need to do, look, all you need to do to show me
Why
wrong
would
is
it be
explain the
trivially true
Raven's
that
paradox.
probability
Explain
raising?
the Raven's
Why?
paradox to me using contraposition. Go ahead.
I've already explained the Ravens paradox on 2 separate occasions. I'm asking you, why would it be trivially
That's-
true this probability
sorry.
raising? Why?
Sorry, is anybody else here in the room?
I don't
who
think
actually
anyone is
understands the
paying that much
paradox?
attention to this conversation. Why would it be trivially true this probability raising?
Is anybody, okay, did anybody here hear
Notice how
Apollo
he's just
explain
he's just doing the
the
weird
Raven's
dumping
paradox?
tactic where he's appealing to the audience instead of actually demonstrating the evidence for it to be trivially true this probability raising because he has no justification. I'm going to ask you again, though. I'm going to ask you again. You're not going to run away from them. Why would it be trivially true this probability raising? Why?
I don't, like, look, if you don't know what the Raven's paradox is, there's no shame.
Why
in
would it be
saying,
the
I don't
case
know.
that it is trivially true this
Explain-
probability raising? Stop dodging.
Explain
Stop
to
posturing.
me, explain
Stop
to me why it's
posturing.
relevant.
Stop
Like,
posturing.
why-
Just
why
give the
do this?
justification.
I'm not the
Why do you have
one,
this
I'm not the one,
tendency to just run away from
I'm not
points?
the one,
dog?
I'm not
Just
the
give
one
the
putting a show
justification.
because I don't know what the Raven's
Just give the
paradox is.
justification. Why would it be trivially true that it is probability raising? Tell me.
I'm gonna get you there, just answer my question.
Yeah, get to it
I'm
right
gonna-
now. Why would it be
I'm
trivially
gonna-
true?
I'm
Get
gonna
to it
walk
right
you
now.
through,
Why would it be trivially
I'm
true?
gonna
Why
walk
would
you
it be
through
trivially
step by
true this
step.
probability raising? Give it a conditional case. Why?
Look, the conditional case is not explaining the
You're
paradox.
confused.
The
You
the
stated,
paradox.
by the way, it would be conditional probabilistic assessment because they're indexed into a particular data. So you're wrong on that point. That's just one blunder in probability theory. The second blunder is you making the claim that it's trivially true. Why would it be trivially true that it is probability raising? Why?
Is this like a typical
Is
strategy?
this
when
your
you
way
don't
of
know
trolling
something?
because you cannot justify a position?
Do you just like over talk and throw terms around?
I'm
that don't
asking you for
understand
justification. Give the
avoid-
justification, dude.
Is this like the kind of like show you do
I'm
when
over
you're like
talking you because
cornered?
you're
You
just
clearly
dodging.
don't know
You're sprinting
something, so
away.
you
You're
put on like a
prevaricating.
show.
Are going to give the justification, Venus, or going to keep on derailing into meta points, which is not even pertinent to the primary disagreement?
I'm kind of like just shocked that you don't know what like Raven's paradox is.
I'm
I
kind of
would be
concerned
less
about
shocked if
your
initially
inability to
you
justify
said,
any claims you're making.
explain
I'm
to me
really
the
concerned
Raven's
about that.
paradox and its
I'm really
relevance.
concerned about your
Then I would
ability to
actually have
track
some
the
kind of
points of
like
this
respect
conversation.
for you.
So once again,
But like you just
what
jumping
is the
in, you're saying,
justification?
saying something as stupid as It's not gonna be probability raising. And then when I ask you to explain the
I'm
Ravens
asking you, why
paradox,
would it be trivially
you
true?
say
This
something as
probability raising,
trivially
this
as
trivial claim.
the probability of all ravens being black, conditionalized upon there's a yellow cup on the table, is gonna be higher. That's not explaining to me the paradox.
That's not what I'm telling you here. You're just not even.
What
You're
I'm
confused
asking is
about the basic
why
points once
do
again.
people think it is? Why do they think that conditional
You
probability
said it's
is high?
trivially
Is
true
what
that
I'm
it is
asking.
probability raising. Not that people think that to be the case. You said it is
And
trivially true.
here's the thing. The clue is
Now
to
you're
explaining
changing the claims again.
The clue is to explaining the paradox is
Venus, you're so
contraposition.
lost. It's
So
actually
I'm
embarrassing
gonna
that
give
you're
you
concerned at this
I'm gonna
point.
give you one more
You said it's
chance to
trivially
save
true that it
face
is
by
probability
explaining to me
raising.
what the Ravens
Not that
paradox
people would
is using
believe this to be the case.
contraposition.
You
Go
said
ahead.
it's trivially a fact. You said it's trivially true. That's not you talking about the masses or the people. You're talking about what is in fact true. Why would it be trivially true, this probability raising? Tell me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you in a second once you answer my
Tell
question.
me right now. Yeah, 1 second just passed. Tell me right now.
I'll tell you what. You answer my question, I'll
You're
answer it
stalling so
directly.
badly because you have no
I'll
justification.
answer it
You
right
want me to
away.
answer your
I'll
question
answer
to
it
go into
right
another meta
away.
point
No
without you
ifs,
justifying
no
your primary
buts, no
position
nothing.
here.
Just answer my question. Just answer
The
my
reason
question,
as to
and
why
I'll
you want
answer
me to
yours.
answer your question is because you want to go into a different point and make me forget about your claim you've made that you cannot
I
justify currently. So
I
justify your claim
swear,
right now.
everybody
Justify
here,
your
call me
position right
back,
now.
call
Why
me
would it
on
be
this.
trivially
If I
true?
don't answer the
Why
question,
would it be
I
trivially
swear
true?
right
Tell me.
away. I swear
You look
right away,
bad on
you
the
answer my
optics, friend.
question,
Just
I'll
letting
answer
you
you.
know this, by the way.
Right
Why
away.
would it be trivially
Now,
true?
what's the contraposition? Go ahead.
How does that demonstrate that it would be the case that it's trivially true that it is probability raising? Tell me.
I told you answer this question, I'll answer any question you want right away.
Dog, we have went over this numerous times, and what's happened was every single time I answer your question, you'd use it as an opportunity to derail into the conversation to a different point instead of answering the question I was asking
I'll tell you
previously.
what, since you
I'm not
flunked
going to
this
fall for
test,
this
I'm
trap
just curious
again.
for
I'm
the
going to ask
people
you
here
one more
in the
time.
room who
Why
are
would it be
listening in.
trivially true?
Who here
Why would
thinks
it
that
be trivially
Apollo
true?
doesn't know what the Ravens paradox is and is
So
putting
this
on a
is the
show to avoid the
typical
question?
Venus rhetorical strategy. You ask the
I mean, I
person
don't think he
irrelevant
explained it. I don't know
questions,
whether
which
he
does not
knows it, but
demonstrate the claims he's making,
Put
instead
it
of
right,
actually proving his
put it
position,
right
to
here,
find
right
an
now. Do you think he
opportunity
knows what
as
the
a
paradox
pathetic
is?
excuse to go off
Or
point and not prove
Hyde,
any
uh,
of
or
his
it does.
assertion.
It
I'm
doesn't
going to
seem
ask you
Aporetic, or
like.
again.
anybody else?
I'm
Do
going to
you
ask you
guys
again.
think
I
Why
don't
would
think
that
it
he
be
he's
knows.
just
I don't
putting
probability
on a
think he
raising?
knows
show
it.
now to avoid answering
Why
your
would it be
question?
trivially true this
Yeah, I mean,
probability raising?
if you
Tell
ask him
me.
what the contrapositive is and he doesn't see how that's trivially evidenced, then I don't get it how he knows what it is.
All right. Now I'm just confused. Somebody who doesn't know something as elementary
Sorry,
as
what
a
were you
Ravens
saying, bro?
paradox. Like why do people think he's like a good debater
Wait,
or
it's
like
Ratcher.
worth
What were you
talking
saying?
to or like worth anybody's
I
time?
said when he asked you what the contrapositive was, right, and it seemed like you thought about it, it came to your mind, and then you still don't understand how it's trivially evidenced. It's just, I don't know, it's just unclear that you know what the Ravens paradox is.
I mean, this
How
is
would it
kind
be
of like
unclear for me to explain
embarrassing.
the Ravens products on numerous different occasions? It's on the
Yeah,
recording.
then
This is
I've
like
you
explained the
would
Ravens
understand.
product.
You would understand that the contrapositive of the claim all ravens are black would be that anything that is not a raven is not black. And so if you see something that's not a raven,
That would
namely
be
a
evidence
cup,
for the
and the cup is
proposition.
not black, then it confirms the original proposition.
No? How would it be
this
the
is kind
case
of
that
like embarrassing.
that contrapositive being the case would be something which is evidence for the proposition in the sense
You,
where it raises the probability of all ravens being
yeah,
black? How would it be
you
the
might think
case?
it's just trivially probability raising, like not enough to matter. But like you've been
It's
wrong
not
on this
trivially
before when you said
probability
that like
raising
beliefs
either.
aren't
That's
evidence.
No, it isn't. It's not a matter
right.
of it is
Remember,
you can have
remember what I
a
said earlier,
negation.
right?
You can have a
Which is
negation.
that
Look,
some
I'll
people
explain to you
want
as
to
to why it
take
would be the
things like
case.
a
I'll
very
explain to you as to why it
minimal or
would not be the
marginal
case. This
probability
probability
raising
raising.
to be
You can
construed
have a
as like weak
negation to the
evidence.
proposition. You can have a negation. Oh, you're spazzing out. It's crazy. You're spazzing out. Look at the Barbarian 8. You can have a negation to the proposition that all ravens are black, which states it is not the case that all ravens are black. And
But
it is the
look,
case that there is a yellow cup
Apollo,
on the table. And that
1 second.
specific conjunctive proposition equally expects the data. And so that data
Apollo,
would
look,
not be evidence for the proposition.
Apollo, you just embarrassed yourself now. So just
I just
pause the
embarrassed myself by
interrupter, right?
wasting my time with someone who does not know anything
Any
about probability theory. I
look,
agree with you definitely.
everybody
I
here,
embarrassed myself by
here.
wasting my time with a dumb low IQ
Yeah, but
moron who just
you're just like
derails
embarrassing
without
yourself
any
more now.
justification
Wait,
because he
Venus,
does not know
He
jack shit about the
he
topic
also said that
and he's ignorant
he
about the
also said that
subject
he's
matter. I
that
agree
peer
with you on
reviewed
that.
papers
I
aren't
agree to
more
that
true
definitely.
tracking
Now
than
again,
non-peer
if you
reviewed
have a
papers.
negation to that proposition, if you
It's
have a
kind of
negation
like
to that universal
funny to
proposition,
watch him try
you
to
couldn't
save
spaz it
face
out
now.
because you're
It's kind
so
of like
scared for
embarrassing.
me to finish my point. You know for a fact that both you and that retard at the background tripped up, right? You can have a negation to the proposition that all ravens are black, which equally expects that there are things in the universe which would not be black, like for example, yellow cup, for example. And so it would be the case, given that specific sentence, that it would not be evidence for the proposition, insofar as it would not even raise the probability of the proposition all ravens are black over the negation hypothesis. So no,
By
it's
the
not
way, did
trivially probability
anybody?
raising, retard. No, it isn't.
By the way, is
It just
anybody
depends on the
recording? By
data
the
we're
way,
talking about.
I
if
think
anybody's
that right
recording,
here is recording. Yeah.
yeah, just make sure, right? You like put the part about like him embarrassing himself in the
You
Ravens
might have to
paradox
write
and
down the
that.
points from now on, Venus, because really and truly, I don't think your brain is equipped for this conversation that much. Even track what's going.
But right, just a comment on the thing you said. I don't know if you remember, like I did say, some people
Yeah,
want
what
to say
point
this
did I
is
just
weak
mention a while ago?
evidence, whereas other people want to say that's not going to be evidence. And I said I
Yeah,
don't really
exactly.
have.
You pointed that
I don't
distinction
really
out earlier
care.
where
Yeah.
yeah, you said you don't care if it's like hard evidence or like very vague forms of evidence, but nevertheless it could be construed as evidence by depending on the person.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that I made.
And what I'm
Tell
saying
me,
here
by
is
the
that
way-
it's
under
evidence
that,
even
just to
under
be
the
clear, under that
probabilistic
weak
assessment
notion of
evidence.
evidence, Apollo doesn't think that belief by rational
It's not
agents
a weak
is
notion of
which is
evidence, by
ridiculous.
the way. It's not a weak notion of evidence, especially if the Ravens
I don't-
paradox is not confirmed, that would be evidence.
Well, I
just
think you're
explained why it would
giving him
not be
too
evidence.
much credit. I don't think he even
Did
knows what
you
we're
did
talking
you remember
about
my
at this point.
explanation as to why it would be the case that a
Right.
yellow cup being on the table would not be evidence? Do you remember that explanation?
I'm just kind of curious.
Do you remember the explanation?
Maybe
Yes or
I'm
no?
like, maybe I'm
Do you
like
remember the
under like a
explanation? Yes or
wrong
no?
view.
He
But I thought like
spazzed
Apollo
out.
was
He
like
does not
supposed to be
remember the
respected
explanation.
here. And like
No, he
after
does
this
not remember.
discussion, I'm kind of
What
like,
was my explanation, dude?
maybe he isn't. Maybe
What
I
was
was
my
just like kind of
explanation?
wrong about that.
What was my
But if
explanation?
they're like somebody here who thinks like he's
And
actually
he's
good
still
at
going off
debating,
point. He's not able to justify the claim. It is trivially true that it is probability reason. He's not able to justify the proposition that ontological parsimony is evidence. And he's not even able to basically give me a collection of my explanation as to why it would not be evidence. You're not able to address any actual relevant significant point of the conversation, which is why you go on these dumb fuck derail points because you're embarrassing
also
yourself and then you forget
Apollo
your embarrassment of the conversation.
claims.
Do you remember? I'm going to ask you
probability
again. I'm going to
reason.
ask you again. I'm going to ask you again. These two questions you've been dodging the entire time. Question number one, why would it be trivially true that it would be probability racing? Question number two, what is
So
my
did the
reasonable
right like
explanation of why it
leave?
would not be trivially true? Tell me, dude.
Was it right or was it the
Tell
other
me.
guy? I think there's like two people talking.
Holy
Poetic, I
yeah,
think you
dude.
were
Do you
one.
just do anything instead of
And
responding
Yeah,
to the
it's me,
actual points of
Marco.
the
Venus.
debate?
What's up?
You do everything
yeah.
instead of actually talking about the debate points. Like, it's crazy to me, man.
I haven't
It's
seen you in a while,
mind-boggling.
Marco. How you been?
Do you want to just have the conversation
Been fine,
because you're
man.
not even
Yeah,
interested in
actually haven't
proving
seen you in a
claims you're
while
making,
either.
man. You're not even talking about the points you're actually
Yeah,
disagreeing on here. You're just
I
going off
haven't
points
been
right
on
now.
so much.
Yeah, I think this conversation is done for. You can't
By the
even
way, if
justify
somebody
your claims
else
or
had like a
proposition.
question
You're
about
just
like
out
my
here embarrassing
view or
yourself,
something
dude.
that I said that they wanted to be like clarified,
Dog, you did
we
not
could take
even
the
remember
time
my
to go through
explanation,
that.
nor did you even remember the points you're even on to even justify your
Done like
primary
10 minutes
proposition.
ago, but I don't know like why Apollo is disagreeing with what you said. I don't really know.
I just explained
Well,
why I was
I took it
disagreeing.
like an hour
That
ago. It
just
was just
tells
like
you you're not even
trolling.
tracking. I just
And
explained
but like
why.
he was like,
I just explained why.
he was like, no, I'm serious, and I also want to
If
discuss
you
the
have
other
something,
theories. I
I'll
was
just
like,
explain why before this guy's
why
yapping
not?
over again because he's
Yeah,
just so
yeah. Seems
insecure.
like
Right. The
I mean,
reason as to
I
why
don't
to
know
not be the
where
type
like
of thing
what
which is
the
trivially
point of
true, I'm
disagreeing
explaining it
with
for
saying
you.
like evidence
You
in
just
this
said you
case
did
is
not.
going to be
You just
trivial
said a while
because
ago you do not know
the amount
why
of
I
like the
disagree. I'm
probabilities
telling you
raised
why.
is
I'm
practically
telling you
gonna
why.
be
Why are
like
you talking over me? Just
insignificant, right?
relax, dog.
So
I'm
like
telling you
maybe in
why.
that sense you
The reason, and
you
you're still
don't think it's
talking.
significant
You said you're
evidence, right?
curious
But it's
about
still like
me
probability raising.
disagreeing. I'm telling you why
Yeah, I
one more
still think
time.
it's
Shut the
like
fuck
a
up.
interesting
The
dispute if you want
reason,
to say
the
it's like
reason as to why
very,
it
very
would be
weak
the case,
evidence.
the reason as to why it would be the
Yeah, I don't
case
think he
that it is
understands like what
not trivially true that it is
Raven's
probability
paradox is either.
raising is because of the fact. I thought you're curious, Risa. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're embarrassing yourself. The reason is because that you have an indefinite number of negation hypotheses, which would be equally expected in that proposition, and the data which is referenced in the Raven's paradox. So it would not be trivially true this probability raising because we can appeal to that same data to justify the proposition that not all ravens are black. And so it would not be raising the probability of the proposition that all ravens are black because it's something which equally expects the data. Now that I've explained that point, Are you going to answer my question, Venus? How is ontological parsimony evidence for the proposition of moral error theory? Tell me.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you right now. How is it evidence?
Wait, did you mute me? Wait, why did you mute me?
Just respond to the question, dude. How is it evidence?
Sorry, Marco, what was the last thing you heard me say, Marco? I didn't know I was muted.
Well, I don't remember, but yeah, you were muted.
That's like the second time I was muted. I
Bro, I
don't
can
know
tell
why.
you guys don't know jack shit about probability theory. Holy fucking shit, dude. This is embarrassing. Dude, do you understand that if you have a negation hypothesis which equally expects what the justifier is that you're using for
What brings you
positive
here,
affirmation,
Venus?
it
Like,
would
why are
not
you
be
talking to these
probability
people?
raising? You understand this?
Oh, some guy wanted to ask me something.
Yeah, I'll
You
just
could
talk to
ask
this
me on
guy instead because you're not even
TikTok.
addressing my point, okay? So, Abyss, do you have any objection to what I just said a while ago?
Sorry, why did you mute Venus? I was talking to Venus.
Wait, Apollo, I have a question.
What's your question,
Let's say,
retard?
let's say that we were observing all non-Raven objects, right? And we observed all of them, and we got to the last object that was not a Raven, right? And all of them were not black. Would that raise the probability that all Ravens are black?
No. Why would it raise the probability of all ravens be black?
So we've observed everything, every object that's not a Raven, and none of them are black, right? And it wouldn't raise the probability even
Ben,
0.00001%.
he's
How
gonna
so?
like say
I'm asking
no,
you, how
probably.
would it be raising the probability? If none of the data is going to be inclusive of Raven, how would it be raising the probability? Give me a
But it
mathematical
would be
justification.
because it's logically equivalent to saying Ravens are black.
How is it the case that it being logically equivalent would entail that it
Ben,
would be raising the probability? Are you lost, dude? Like, are you okay?
Thanks for answering my question.
Do you think that actually proved your point in this debate?
Do you think that we were having a debate just now?
Yes, you were disputing what I was saying previously, yeah.
Okay.
You stepped
You
into the
win
debate.
again. That's your second victory in a row. Good job.
Sarcastically claiming that someone won is not going to hide your embarrassment, just to be clear.
Sarcastically saying what somebody just
Statistically-
did is
and
also
look at
not
them
rhetoric.
talking to me right now because they know actual response of the context. Interesting. Now, I'm going to wait until you're going to be able to explain how it would be probability raising, or going to sprint away from the conversation because you realized I did not agree to the dumb fucking assertion you made that you cannot justify. I'm going to be waiting. And by the way, for the person who claimed, oh, it's logically equivalent, so it would be evidence, I can give you a proposition which negates the proposition of all ravens being black, which would be logically equivalent, which would also equally expect
can you unmute
the data
Venus?
that you're talking
Because
about,
this is like
okay?
a bit boring,
Here's
to be
one
honest.
proposition. Here's one proposition, retard. If I make the proposition that not all ravens are black, and it is also the case that for any object that I observe in the universe, it is the case that they are not black, that would equally expect what you're talking about insofar as it would entail the proposition, sure. It would entail the proposition of there being the case that everything I observe would not be black. And so in that specific case scenario, you have a negation to the proposition that all ravens are black, which equally expects the data that's being referenced. And so trivially, it would be the case that it would not be probability raising in favor of the proposition that all ravens are black, because of a negation to that proposition, which equally expects the same data which you're referencing, retard. So no, it's not trivially true. It just depends on how you're going to frame the conditional sentence. You're so stupid, dog. So anyone else have an objection, or is that it for the time? Oh, Venus is still muted. You just unmute this guy. All of this has been dodging the entire time, so I don't think there's any sort of productivity from even unmuting this guy. So Venus, do you have the evidence, dude? Okay, I guess that's it for the conversation. None of you guys know what probability theory even works, so you guys think that like that would be something
I
which is
think I
trivially
just-
raising the probability.
I think
So
I was
yeah,
like,
that's just it. Unless you want to get back to the moral error theory talk and justify your claim, unless you want to do that, but if you're not doing that right now, then I think there's no sort of reason to continue this conversation. I think so for sure, definitely.
think about this. All x's are y. If I see an x that is y,
Hey, that was embarrassing,
is
dude.
that
That was like really
is
embarrassing.
that